Hey guys, what is going on? In this video, we're talking about effects to take your footage to the next level. I'm talking about effects that you lay on in post after you're done shooting. These are things that you can use to basically take your footage and do something more with it rather than just cutting it. We're talking about layering effects, we're talking about transitions, all this good stuff. Guys, there's a ton of content in here to unpack, so let's just get right into it. So the effects that we're talking about in this video come in the form of light leaks, flares, or bokeh that is shot against black. These effects are meant to mimic natural lens flares and light elements that you might find when shooting in different type of lighting scenarios. To use effects like these, you basically drag and drop them onto your footage, then tweak them using different blend modes and opacity to produce the look you need. You can create additional looks by playing with the color and adding other effects to these overlays. Before we get into a step-by-step walkthrough of working with these effects, I want to show you why you might want to add these to your footage. The goal with using any lighting effects is to make your footage look more cinematic. When people say cinematic look, they mean that the footage looks like it was highly produced, like a major commercial or film. With these kinds of productions, you'll often find that the lenses create cool effects with lens flares, bokeh, and light leaks. This is something that is harder to produce, especially with drones and small action cameras. This is why we use pre-made lighting effects and then add them in post. I've also found that beyond giving your footage a more cinematic look, these effects give you a cool tool to edit your footage. I personally use them all the time when transitioning footage from one shot to another. Rather than doing a straight cut, I'll have an effect fade in and transition the shot right as the light hits at its strongest intensity. It gives a different quality to the cut and makes it more dramatic. Okay, now that we have the basics squared away, let's get into how to use these effects. The effects pack that I'm using is Polar Pro's Helios Cinematic Light Effects. The software I'm using is Final Cut X, but you can do this with any editing software. First, you need to add a shot to your timeline. From here, we're going to drag and drop the light effect on top. You'll see once you add the effect, it does not have a transparent layer. You need to set your blend mode so that the footage underneath comes through the black. The blend mode I mainly use is linear dodge because it takes away all the black and leaves just the light effect. However, you might find that some of the other blend modes will work better for you. I suggest taking some time and playing with each of the modes so that you can see how it affects your footage underneath. Now, once you've added your blend mode to the effect, you'll want to dial in your opacity. Sometimes I'll leave it at 100% and other times I'll bring it down to create more of a subtle effect. From here, if you want to add a specific color to your effect, I suggest playing with the highlights and changing the color so it doesn't affect the overall image too much. You can add some interesting colors this way. Other things I'll do with the effect is fade in and fade out, because sometimes I only want a few seconds of the full effect. And another way to play with them is to speed ramp the effect. You can speed them up or slow them down depending on how you want the light effect to move over your footage. If you're looking for something slower, more dramatic, or if you want a quick flash for a transition. And that's it. It's super simple to add pre-made lighting effects to your footage and give your project a more cinematic look. From here, you can come up with more creative ways to add these effects to your footage. Sometimes you'll double them up, sometimes you'll have them transition from one to the next, but now that you have the basics of how to use these effects, the sky's the limit. Personally, I use these effects all the time when creating promos and intros and things like that. For example, my intro here on YouTube, you can see I use lens flares all over it along with some other elements to give different layers to the footage and make it move fast and give it more of a cinematic style. Alright guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope you pulled some tricks from this, found some new ways to play with your footage. Guys, these effects are awesome. I love using them when I am editing. But remember, you don't want to overdo effects and looks. You want to create stuff that makes sense. You don't want to just put flares and this and transitions and whips and boom and da da da. No, you want to create something that is entertaining to watch, that helps tell your story. So use these effects. They're great tools, but don't overdo it. Hopefully this shows you what you can do and how this may help you when you're editing your footage. Alright guys, links are all in the description below. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, leave me a comment. Guys, make sure to check us out on Instagram at Wanderworks, and I will see you on the next one.